Whenever War Thunder introduces changes to battle ratings, it's always an exciting time for me to at least to dive back into the game. The meta shifts, some vehicles become less relevant, while some finally get their chance to shine, which to me, playing all nations is a very fun time to experience within War Thunder. Now, I'll display the BR changes on the screen. If you'd like to, feel free to pause the video and read through them. To view the full list, because I'm not going to be going over everything, the description of this video will have a link where you can actually go view them at, so definitely check out that as well. So let's discuss the ones that currently have the most excited for the BR changes. First, we have the decrease of 8.3 to 9.0 air vehicles. This includes the combat aircraft like the MiG-17, the F-86 Sabres, and many others in that BR range. For quite some time now, these aircraft have been easy prey for the F-104s and other supersonic jets in that bracket. Personally, this BR range has been one of my favorite to play in ARB. However, since the introduction of the supersonic aircraft within War Thunder, it's been a tough environment with these planes like the F-104 and as well as the MiG-19 and Lightning dominating these battle rating brackets. The problem is, none of these like 9.0 aircraft could even catch up to these supersonic aircraft, which makes it a huge challenging experience whenever it comes to playing these vehicles in War Thunder. With these BR adjustments, I understand that it can negatively impact the 7.0 to 8.0 vehicles which are currently within that range. While the typical criticism that they might get is like, why don't they just decompress the battle ratings or shift the F-104s and the other supersonic jets up? It's kind of important to realize that these aircraft were also moved down in BR because these aircraft were also struggling whenever it came to their old BR bracket as well. It's really just a complex situation with no easy solution, because if you do the BR decompression thing, which I mean is the answer to do, the question about it is will there be enough people to actually fill out this battle rating bracket within like 6.0 to 7.3, for example? Because as you know right now, if you go play the JU-288 or you go play the Strike Master, you play your AU-1, are vehicles which are going to see this battle rating bracket, or even stuff like the ME-262, are you going to see a lot of games filled up? And at off-peak times, whenever I play these battle rating brackets, I definitely don't see that. You see a lot of JU-288 with maybe like 1 to 2 fighters on the German teams, and then the American teams have a bunch of Strike Masters, and then, you know, the premiums which came out during, you know, Battle Pass season. So it is definitely one of those like double-edged sword situations that we're kind of in when it comes to reducing the current, you know, BRs that we're, you know, reducing during this update. But at the same time, I do understand that it's going to make a lot of those vehicles which are currently already at those battle rating brackets really struggle, which is sad at the same time. Now, I think there can be some little solutions that Gaijin can currently do, because it is going to be a huge issue for people, because they're essentially moving down a bunch of the like mid-rank jets to where you get your first jet, which for a lot of people just starting out the game is going to be very bad. So my proposed, you know, solution would be to actually increase the RP gains of some of these early jets, which makes it to where you can get through them very easily to then go up into like the MiG-15s or, you know, your Sabres or your MiG-17s and just have a better time than playing like your F-80C and just getting owned because it's 7-7 and it's having to face MiG-17s and as well as the F-86 F2 Sabre. But yeah, it really does suck with these starter jets, because they're the main ones which are going to be impacted, because most people get their first jet, they're pretty much clueless on how to fly them, and they will be having to face a MiG-15, which will pretty much just dominate it every time it sees it. So now let's look at the M18. The M18 is getting a BR increase from 5.7 to 6.0, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that really significant change. We've seen similar adjustments to other vehicles like the Panthers as well as the Tiger 1E, which also moved to 6.0. And to me, at least surprisingly, the M4A376 is also not moving up to 6.0, but honestly, I would prefer it to stay at 5.7 just so it can help that lineup. But the thing that I feel like this M18 lineup for at least America, mind you that all of them are also moving up. So the Italian one, the Chinese one, and the Chinese premium, which is the M64, also moving up to 6.0. I don't feel like the American lineup at least has a good reason to exist. I mean, if you go look at Italy, you have the Tigris, you have a bunch of 6.0 vehicles you can run it with. China is kind of a little bit limited. They only have the SU-100, but to be quite honest with you, the SU-100 lineup was already pretty struggling, so having 2 vehicles at that battle rating bracket now can be a little bit decent. But the thing that the American tech tree is missing out, which is one thing that they're really good at, is having stabilizers. So whenever you're up tiered or whenever you're on a smaller map, you may want to have just a Sherman in your lineup so you can have the ability to have a stabilizer. And to be quite honest with you, that's what America is really good at. They're really good at getting into good positions. They're really good at getting into positions where they can make the first shot because they're able to stabilize very quickly. And the 6.0 lineup just doesn't offer that as of now. You do have the Mutant, which is coming in with the M18, but at the same time, why would you want the Sherman with the 90 mil whenever you could have a Sherman with a 76 with a quicker reload and basically do the same exact thing? thing. I mean, you have a little bit less pen, but at the end of the day of things, having the ability to get more shots off and having the ability to get the first shot off is always going to be a better option in my opinion. At the end of the day, the M18 is a light tank, and its strength lies in its ability to maneuver into strategic positions where it can exploit side shots on an enemy. Additionally, map positioning is probably one of the most potent advantages in War Thunder, and the M18 kind of excels in that aspect. So while the BR increase may seem bad, it doesn't fundamentally change how the M18 should be played in ground RB, which to me at least doesn't really seem like it's that huge of a change at the end of the day of things. Now the Super Hellcat is also going up to 6.7, which means that you'll be able to run it in that lineup. But yeah, honestly guys, the M18 is really good. It's really good at getting in good positions. The only thing that I would say it's not really good at is acting like it's a medium tank where you're trying to face the enemy head on. But if you're getting into positions where you're able to get side shot, the tank does wonders, and it's probably one of my favorite light tanks within War Thunder just because, you know, it can do very well. Lastly, let's address the BR change that seems puzzling to me. The BMP-1 moving from 7.7 to 8.0. The BMP that I've recently played, which is the ZBD-86, which is essentially the Chinese BMP-1 clone, but with a more powerful ATGM. While I've had some success with it, I can't help but feel that the BMP-1 isn't particularly strong. Yes, it's a light tank, which automatically puts it in one of the best classes in the game, but the gun leaves much to be desired. Additionally, the ATGM, especially after the Cyclos nerfs, it's only effective against like stationary targets or targets that are moving very slowly. I mean, you can accidentally dip this ATGM into the ground, which is a very bad thing. A lot of the ATGM vehicles in War Thunder are just really crap now, and it's very sad that they kind of stay at the same battle ratings. I guess because no one's really playing them. But despite my experiences, I'm surprised to hear that the BMP-1 is performing very well against vehicles like the Fox, because I feel like right now the meta within that like BR bracket is the Fox, and the BMP-1 would just be an easy target for it. So I really want to know the dynamic right now. I wish Gaijin could answer this, of the Fox versus the BMP-1. How is the Fox just getting owned by it? Is the BMP-1 just getting owned by it? Is there just not enough Foxes going around? I don't know. We'll have to see how that kind of goes. But also, once again, the BMP-1's going to 8.0. And then if you look at it again, the Fox is funny enough going to 7.7, which means that you will no longer have to see a lot of the lower battle rating, you know, tanks. And honestly, if you look at it in this way, the M18 change, which is going into 6.0, if the Fox would have stayed at 7.0, which it currently is right now, that would be a wonderful time for that little Fox. It would just nuke easily M18s every single game, which is kind of sad. But yeah, the Fox is going to 7.7 while the BMP-1 is going to 8.0. So that's it for the official BR changes when it comes to the April BR change update of 2024. Now, once again, they can add stuff to this. They can also remove stuff. So if you want to give feedback, definitely do that. They are asking for feedback though. So make sure to leave them some feedback if you have any suggestions of what they should add to this, you know, BR change. Now, once again, I do want to say this though, is that if you are biased towards your nation or you just play one nation within War Thunder, please view whatever BR change you want from other nations' perspectives, especially if you're playing like Italy, for example, and you just want to see everything for Italy just go down at BR because, you know, you're an Italian main, you want to see them do very well. Definitely kind of just look at it, man. It's one of the most sad things about the War Thunder community as a whole, is that people just get into one nation, they only play one nation, and they only care about one nation, and it's very sad whenever that kind of happens. But yeah, I am going to give my feedback on what I think should go up and down at BR. Once again, I want you guys to view this as the same thing as I just said. I'm not a messiah. I'm not the one who is going to definitely put in these changes whenever it comes to War Thunder. That's going to be Gaijin themselves. But at the same time, don't view me as like, you know, the end all be all the BR changes. Have your own opinion. And if you don't agree with something within these changes, I suggest definitely add that sort of stuff to the comment. But for the first vehicle, let's discuss the T18E2 Boarhound. This is a vehicle which is currently sitting at a battle rating of 3.0, which in my opinion is very far too low for its capabilities. It's an unusual vehicle to analyze because it's a vehicle that is very odd because of the gun. And the reason I say it is because the gun is on stuff like the Cromwell and as well as I believe the Crusader 57. But the 57mm gun is the same thing that's on the T18E2, but it has an APHE round with the same penetration as the AP round that the Cromwell has, for example, which just makes this thing really good at just one shots, and also with the very low reload of 4.0 seconds with an ace crew, it is just really good. The only downside to the T18E2 is the mobility, but even though the mobility is relatively poor to other vehicles around that battle rating, it's not really a limitation as you would think it really would be. It just kind of just putters on the map. And then from the front, since the armor is pretty trolly just because it's very angled very weirdly, it can, you know, bounce a lot of the shells whenever it comes to War Thunder. So my suggestion for this vehicle would definitely be to put it up at like a 3.7, just so it sits at the same battle rating as the Cromwell, because the Cromwell for some reason is at 3.7, but this thing is 3.0. And to me, at least, if it starts doing still well or like better than the Cromwell, it should just go to 4.0. And 4.0 should put it into the position where it should do, you know, relatively, you know, not the best, but also it should still do pretty well. The next one is just a classic, which is the KV-1E/B. These vehicles, they run the 4.0 meta. They're very strong. Gaijin, please fix. I've talked about these vehicles enough. They just need to go up in BR so they can quit running games. You know, 4.3 is just an easy way to nerf these vehicles, but they're very good. A lot of people play them. Excelsior could also probably be thrown into these vehicles as well. They're just too good for the battle rating that they're at, unless you're in a vehicle like a M10 or something that has heat FS at a super low BR, like the IKV-103, and you just nuke these things. They're very strong. I highly suggest Gaijin to actually finally just move them up so they don't bully the lower tiers of War Thunder. The next vehicle is actually a vehicle that I think should go down in BR, which is the M26 Pershing. It was moved at the 6.7 for some reason, but at the same time, if you view this vehicle, at least from the American point of view, they're putting this vehicle in a battle rating bracket which just have vehicles which are just better than it, like the T-265 as well as the T-261, the T-34, a lot of vehicles which are just better than a regular old T-26. So this thing basically serves no purpose at 6.7. Once again, I don't think that it's an incredibly good vehicle, but for some reason Gaijin has just decided that the vehicle is just so good that it can't be at 6.3. What my proposed solution is move this thing back down to 6.3, but if it's just doing extremely well for some reason, do like you do to other vehicles that you don't want to move up in BR, which is give it an artificial nerf to reload. There you go, an easy solution for this tank, and honestly, it would just make it like way better than it is now at 6.7. So finally, let's talk about some aircraft that I think also need to be included with the 8.7 to 9.7 BR decreases. Stuff like the Mystère, the Super Mystères, the Saber Dogs, the G91s, the Venom, the Vampire. A lot of these vehicles are kind of just in a weird position. The Yak 30, like I said, there's a bunch of these vehicles like the Yak 30 right now. If they just keep it at 8.7, will be the same battle rating as a MiG-17. Now, and what universe that makes any sense of why those vehicles are at the same BR is beyond me, other than that no one plays the Yak 30, so it has no statistics to actually go about it. So it definitely is a thing that they need to look into, of just all of these vehicles which are currently set around, you know, these battle rating brackets that just don't get any play because they were bad in the first place and no one really wanted to play them. Like the Saber Dogs, the Venom, especially the 8.7. The Hunter F1 is kind of a double-edged sword one. I feel like it should go down in battle rating, but once again, I feel like the meta of this battle rating bracket, I mean, they're still going to get pushed up to like 9.3, which they're still going to see F104s, but at 8.7, I don't feel like the Hunter F1 would be that bad, and then you're able to reduce down, you know, that vehicle as well, 8.7. I feel like that would be probably the best thing to do, but if you want my opinion right now of what the best vehicles are going to be, if we don't include an up tier at all, so where they can see F104s and MiG-19s, for example. The F-80, the F-86 F2 Sabre is going to be really good. The MiG-17 is going to be really good. The MiG-15 at 8.0 is also going to be really good. So I think a lot of emphasis needs to be put around this battle rating bracket of what else should be moved around within this, you know, update of War Thunder. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Definitely, if you have some BR suggestions, leave them in the comments of this video, or, you know, suggestions that you think should work a lot better. Then also remember that you're able to add feedback to the War Thunder side if you want to get your voice heard.